actually Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday, the day he was actually born. The day we actually observe, or should I say America observes, is this coming Monday. And depending on where you work, you might be off that day. So I just want to let you guys know I will be on Newsmax first edition at the top of the hour at 8 a.m. And they're bringing me on to discuss my thoughts and views and opinions about MLK. And if you guys don't know, I don't know where you've been, if you've been under a rock or what, but I've been very open and transparent and honest with you guys regarding my opinion of Martin Luther King Jr., the late civil rights activist. And I'll be talking about that on Monday. So while you might be posting quotes and you might be posting nostalgic black and white photos with soft music playing in the background, pretending this is about unity on Monday, I want to be very clear because I never want to mislead my audience, but you need to know and understand that I, in good faith, cannot celebrate with you on that day. I cannot do so spiritually or culturally or historically or ideologically. That's just, I'm one of those people, you pay a heavy price for lying to the strong. And so before somebody out there starts clutching their pearls, and I'm not wearing pearls today, I'm wearing this little emblem here, but before you start clutching whatever it is you're wearing and start screaming, but April, we get it. You may have had some differences with King's method, but shouldn't we still celebrate his accomplishments? Well, I've come across a video that was sent to me that I'd like to share with you guys. Now, I know sometimes, not all of y'all, but some of y'all, some of my audience, you will hear what I say regarding King, and it'll go right over your head because the cognitive dissonance and the multiple stages of grief and acceptance, you kind of got to go through that. But I figured, you know what? This video is a little different. Sometimes when you hear the white man say it, it hit a little different. So I want y'all to take a listen to this video that I came across, and then we're just going to talk about it briefly. Take a listen.
Christians should not support or celebrate Martin Luther King. Here's why. Martin Luther King was an adulterous Marxist who masqueraded as a Baptist minister, but was anything but that, as noted by the fact that he clearly denied the fundamental key doctrines of the Christian faith. Now, this isn't misinformation. You can read his writings yourself and see that what he believed actually lines up more with atheists than it does with Christians. For example, he denied the key doctrine of the virgin birth. He writes, "First, we must admit that the evidence for the tenability of this doctrine is too shallow to convince any objective thinker. To begin with, the earliest written documents in the New Testament make no mention of the virgin birth. Moreover, the Gospel of Mark, the most primitive and authentic of the four, gives not the slightest suggestion of the virgin birth." He also asserts that Christianity finds its roots in paganism. He states that Christianity did copy and borrow from Mithraism cannot be denied. But probably one of the most damnable heresies was his denial of the bodily resurrection of Jesus Christ, which he denied since the age of 13. He states, "At the age of 13, I shocked my Sunday school class by denying the bodily resurrection of Jesus." He goes on to say, "This doctrine, upon which the Easter faith rests, symbolizes the ultimate Christian conviction that Christ conquered death. From a literary, historical, and philosophical point of view, this doctrine raises many questions. In fact, the external evidence for the authenticity of this doctrine is found wanting. Not only that, but he also denied that Jesus Christ was God. He asserts, the orthodox attempt to explain the divinity of Jesus in terms of an inherent metaphysical substance within him seems to me quite inadequate. To say that Christ, whose example of living we are bid to follow, is divine in an ontological sense is actually harmful and detrimental." Clearly showing us that Martin Luther King was not a Christian by any stretch of the imagination, and also demonstrating that he was clearly a false prophet according to biblical standards. And in fact, according to 2 Peter 2:14, this caliber of false prophet goes hand in hand with adultery. It states having eyes full of adultery that cannot cease from sin. Well, in 1964, the FBI, under the direction of J. Edgar Hoover, sent a letter to Martin Luther King, accompanied with an audio tape that the FBI claimed contained recordings of King's alleged sexual encounters. A portion of the letter reads, "You will find on the record for all time your filthy, dirty, evil companions, male and females giving expressions with you to your hideous abnormalities, and some of them to pretend to be ministers of the gospel. Satan can do no more. What incredible evilness. It is all there on the record, your sexual orgies. Listen to yourself, you filthy, abnormal animal. You are on the record. You have been on the record all of your adulterous acts, your sexual orgies extending far into the past. This one is but a tiny sample. Martin Luther King was a false prophet using Christianity to disseminate his Marxist ideologies.
All righty. Well, you had an opportunity to listen to that. And because my platform, I derive my political positions from my biblical worldview. I know a lot of you are like, okay, April, so you've got theological issues with King, and we believe that the record is clear that him denying core tenets of the Christian faith would put him outside of orthodoxy. However, there are some of you who have a common defense, and usually it's like, okay, fine, maybe King wasn't orthodox, right? Well, maybe he denied core doctrines of the Christian faith, but surely we can honor him for his humanitarian work. Nobody's perfect. Like, you weren't expecting perfection, were you? And I'm like, no, let me stop you right there. That's not it. The reason why we cannot just accept the humanitarian work and step aside or push to the side the moral issues or the theological issues, it's because humanitarian work, you guys, it is judged by fruit. Not your intentions, not your emotions, not speeches, right, that get us all riled up, and definitely not some vibes. Now, when I look, theology aside, when I look at the fruit of King's legacy in Black America, I don't know about you, because I've been Black my whole life. Like, I can't wash it off. I mean, I'm pretty Black. I don't see flourishing, right? Like, where do you see it? Because I don't see that. But do you know what I do see? And you see it too, if you just want to be honest. You see dependency. I see confusion. I see an enormous inferiority complex wrapped up in moral posturing amongst Black Americans, I'm saying. The question that we need to ask ourselves is your humanitarian work, if it leaves your people worse off than when your work began, then really, was it humanitarian? Like, can we argue that? I say no. I say it was destructive. And I boldly declare that, and I dare anyone to challenge me on this position based on the merits. I'm sorry, I'm forced to recognize that MLK and his movement and his rhetoric, that was the flashpoint where Black America, we went off course, and King was not the solution. King was the flashpoint. What do I mean? MLK and his movement is the moment where Black America, we pivoted away from self-sufficiency and merit and strong family structure and economic independence, and we turned toward government dependency, and we started looking at that as virtue, right? Like, he convinced us that if you beg the government for basic income and government housing and a government job, that was better than using your God-given ingenuity to show yourself valuable to the marketplace, which is something we were already doing. Like, it is intellectually dishonest to imply that Black people were not bastions of success, where we were building our own, despite, if some would argue, but we were marginalized, we was on the outskirts, but we had what we had, and it was ours, that nobody could take it away from us, right? But the issue is, before King, Black Americans were not perfect, but we were building. We were naturally gaining our own footing by figuring it out on our own without losing our self-respect and our morals. But if you examine us, Black America after King, y'all, we were absorbed into the Democrat Party. absolutely absorbed into the welfare state and absorbed into grievance politics. And if you look today, well over 60%, this is not a flex. I'm not proud of this number. Over 60% of Black Americans have a favorable view of socialism. That is wild. Let me read something. I want to read something to you guys out of the Iron Triangle. My friend, my brother, and my client. This is an American treatise. If you don't own it, I don't understand why you don't. But you need to run to Amazon and get this book. Let me read something to you. In his Pulitzer Prize winning book, Parting the Waters, Taylor Branch wrote that in 1956, the Communist Party, or liberals in Moscow, ordered their agents in the civil rights movement to establish a separate national development for American Negroes modeled on the Soviet republics. It seems to have worked magnificently well because in 2019, the Black community is the only community in America that has the characteristics of the former Soviet republics, complete with one-party rule, forced compliance, extreme poverty, government dependence, and dictator worship. If untrue, the Black Soviet-style ghettos that are disrupting and terrorizing America are an amazing coincidence. Nevertheless, one thing cannot be disputed. This was a terrible trade. Blacks gained the right to eat and use the bathroom beside Southern whites, while white liberals gained control of a nation and potentially the world. Think about what I just said. A people who survived slavery, Jim Crow, and segregation now openly embrace an ideology that requires, it ain't optional, it requires dependency, obedience to the government as God, and submission to the state. You think that happened by accident? It didn't happen by accident. Black America overwhelmingly, when you just examine our worldview collectively, now, listen, the Lord has redeemed me and woke me up, but when I'm speaking in generalities. Black America overwhelmingly welcomes and disciples melanated Marxists, and it has reared up several generations of a dependent class. All you got to do, if you don't believe me, look at so many of our prominent Black preachers. They're all Marxists out here preaching social justice, and they have no concept as to what the gospel of Christ is. We can't even listen to many of these Black preachers today without them bathing their entire sermons in Blackness. And not just that, though, y'all. King didn't just usher Black Americans into the Democrat Party. He trained us psychologically to believe that the government is the answer to all of our problems. And if we just appeal to them by begging and groveling and whining and complaining, that eventually we would wear them down to get what we want. Not put your trust not in princes, but put your trust in God. We didn't hear that. We didn't hear that the family is the bedrock of all things, that it is a blessing that the Lord has provided us to protect and to maintain, because this is how generational wisdom is passed down. And this is how God blesses generations, by the family. That is the unit of spiritual blessings. We weren't taught about having a healthy doctrine of work. No ownership. We were taught to depend on government. And now what do? We vote, like on purpose, for melanated Marxists. Like we think that having more Black representatives in government is helping us, but they're just helping the white liberals while we're out here clapping for socialism, defending communist worldviews, and then calling dependency of more government programs and more handouts. We call that justice. Give us health care. right? We need free food, government housing, pay for our health care, give us this, give us that. We have become the largest voting bloc of the dependent class in America. And the sad part about it is we don't even recognize that as bondage. We think it's a win, like we're winning. That's not progress. That's regression. So here's the most revealing moment for me. If we talk about the most iconic images of the civil rights movement, let me show y'all one. I absolutely hate looking at this image, but you need to see it to feel it. Just settle with this black and white image right here. This is black men walking around with signs around their neck that said, I am a man. Now, I know you've been taught to say, look at them walking, letting those white folks know that they're a man. Think about how degrading this actually is. No other people group would ever do this. We've never seen this anywhere in America. Why is it that we don't understand that a man doesn't announce that he's a man? He don't announce his manhood. He asserts it. A man demonstrates it, right? My husband doesn't walk around this house having to constantly remind us with a sign that he the man of this house. We just know when he step in and we hear that bass in his voice, everybody in the house, even the dog Timber knows. No different than a lion doesn't walk through the jungle wearing a sign that says, I'm a lion. When you see him, oh, you know, as soon as he roars, you pack up like, whoop, time to dip, time to go. You already know. You know what to do. You move accordingly because the lion is in your presence. So when a man walks into a room, you don't need a sign. His presence, his discipline, his strength, and competence tell you everything you need to know. But King trained black men to beg for recognition instead of commanding and asserting what God had already given them. So to me, that's this right here, this the ultimate sign of weakness, but we package this as righteousness. And we have black men today still walking around crying about white supremacy and racism and talking about how it's just holding them back. And that if the white man would just get his foot off his neck, he could go and do and be something. So if this don't do it for you, I don't know. It's a perspective that when I see it, I don't see the men of our forefathers that when Abraham Lincoln said, you need to teach your former masters that you are free. So if these people are standing there with guns, you standing here with a sign talking about you are a man. And we wonder how we got the feminization of black men and then the rebellion of black women. So while King is teaching black men how to be passive and weak and whiny, right? His wife, whether you want to hear it or like it or not, I don't care. She modeled something else. Black women, we learned rebellion. Please don't mistake. Coretta was a stone cold feminist who was all about teaching black women about reproductive rights. We are below the rate of replacement at this point. She accepted the Margaret Sanger Award on King's behalf because he had a speaking engagement. And not just that, she was a trained Marxist right alongside her husband. So during the Poor People's Campaign, after King's assassination, at Resurrection City, let me tell you what she was doing. I read liberals. I read the melanated Marxists in their own words. I don't have to run to conservatives for my commentary. So please be clear. When I read from the Iron Triangle, Taylor Branch it was Bill Clinton's college roommate, and he a stone cold liberal. So let's just get that out the way. Listen to this. Thousands came to hear Coretta King give a stirring speech calling for black women, white women, brown women, and red women, all the women of this nation to join in a campaign of conscience. She called her welfare reform and a restoration of benefits. For who? For women and children, saying, our Congress passes laws which subsidize corporation farms, oil companies, airlines, and houses for suburbia. But when it comes to its attention to the poor, it suddenly becomes concerned about balancing the budget. I thought it was interesting that we didn't hear Coretta say anything about keeping the black family intact, putting the black man as the head of his family, saying we don't want your funky little government check for us and the children. We want you to get the heck out of our way so we can keep our families together. She had her intact family, but why you never heard that type of messaging for you to do that for yours? They had 4 children, but she wants you to go to the clinic to kill your baby because that's empowerment. So for me, this submission wasn't a call to family, but it was an appeal to the government to give you a check for you and your kids, and rightly understood, that's rebellion and defiance. So here we are today, weak men, rebellious women who they don't even see the value of a man anymore. We got a bunch of broken, disjointed families. Children are being raised and educated by the state. And you thought this was accidental? No. We are living the ideological inheritance of a movement that you've been told was the greatest move in history. I reject that. Merit replaced with begging. That's what we got. King replaced our ability to strive and aspire with begging for free stuff, as if we were incapable, like other people groups in this country, of figuring out how to add value to America without the government's help. Every other people group, we go and beg the government for money when other people groups, Asians, Indians, and Hispanics, keep their money not just in their community, but they go to the politician and say, you do what we say. But instead, we always talk about, can y'all give us a little something? That's what we do. We replace merit and hard work with a march. What used to be actual Black excellence, because we had Black excellence, that got replaced with entitlement. What is there to celebrate? All of the ownership gains we were making has been replaced with just outrage. You're just outraged and you don't even know why. And the result of that, we now walk around, y'all, not me, a greater inferiority complex today, way more than we ever had before the civil rights movement. We are told that we can't compete because the white man, he's just all powerful. He's in our way. And we're told that we need special rules. We're told that we need protection as if we are pets. That's not empowerment. That is psychological colonization. And once again, I reject it. And then when you ask yourself, since when why, or have you ever known white liberals to celebrate a real pastor who had a heart after God? Where have we seen that in history? When have you ever seen a white liberal celebrate a real pastor? Never. You've never seen it. You never will. So then you need to ask, why is it that white liberals still love King? Why are there monuments for him? I will tell you why white liberals still adore King. They love King because he made Black people manageable, made us real docile and dependent, emotional, super weak. I can't stand looking at footage of the Edmund Pettus Bridge, because when you understood historically what was happening, they did not have a permit and were told not to march. And they went to march anyway so they could get the optics they wanted the optics of people beating them upside the head with billy clubs. And you want me to look at that moral, that's supposed to be some kind of moral prop. He made us moral props in their political theater, giving them the perfect formula to deliver Black votes, no accountability, endless grievance. This is why his image is polished and untouchable, because he delivered Black America straight into their hands. And if you look around, we've been unable to loosen the grip ever since. So my final word is simple: no. I will not celebrate with you. I will not post the quotes. I will not play the clips. I'm not bowing to the mythology. Truth has no interest or concern or care about holidays. And honoring a legacy that helped produce the dependency and the socialism and the broken families and the weak men and the rebellious women and the confused people, that's not something I want to celebrate. It's not moral. It's dishonest. A man doesn't need a sign. We don't need this. Y'all see this? We don't need a sign. Nor do we need to celebrate sitting next to white people on a bus if that's a flex. It's not a flex. I would have rather been invited to sit next to my fellow man. I'm an image bearer made in the image of God. My dignity or worth is not tied to where or who I sit next to, nor am I going to beg him to let me do it. Y'all, we don't need a savior in government. Black America doesn't need another march. We need truth. We absolutely need to repent. We need order, ownership, and to put God first. And some of us just need the courage to say, you know what? This went wrong. And it went wrong here. And it's okay to acknowledge that you were hoodwinked and bamboozled, but that you will walk in the light and you won't be hoodwinked and bamboozled anymore.